What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and our 2023 college football predictions continue for the 2023 college football season. Up next are the BYU Cougars, a team coming off a 8-5 season in 2022. It was kind of a bit of an up and down year for BYU last year. This is a team that I was really high on last year. I kind of expected them to be like the top team in the independent conference, but maybe besides Notre Dame, they probably were in that conversation. But BYU didn't really turn out to be as good as we think they were going to be. They had all that experience from last year's team. My thoughts on this team, though, for BYU in 2023, I think they're still going to be pretty good, but the roster that they lost from last year's team is really questionable. They lost a ton of guys from last year. You lose your starting quarterback as well from last year. Not really too concerned about the roster for BYU. What I'm concerned about is the schedule for the Cougars. And you look at who they first off play in the non-conference. They'll play Sam Houston, Southern Utah, and they'll also play Arkansas out of the SEC on the road on September 16th. They played them last year at home. They lost to them, so that's a rematch from last year's game. And then you look at the Big 12 schedule. They do play TCU, Texas, and Oklahoma on this schedule, and those games are going to be pretty tough. They play TCU and Texas both on the road. They at least get the Sooners at home. But that's a tough schedule for BYU. I mean, not a really easy draw there for BYU out of the Big 12 this year. And if you look at this schedule, it's probably the hardest ones, out of the newcomers in the Big 12. So this is really a tough schedule for BYU. But let's go game by game now and give you an official prediction for this BYU team. How will they do in their first year in the Big 12? So they start things off here with two easy non-conference games against Sam Houston and Southern Utah, both in the month of September. These are games that I would think where BYU will take care of business in. And I think they start out 2-0 with an easy win there over Sam Houston and Southern Utah. And I think these are two games where BYU should score about 30 or 40 points. So I think BYU starts out 2-0. They get a couple easy wins there to open up the month of September. Then they'll play Arkansas on the road here on September 16th. Arkansas has got a lot of question marks this season. Defensively, I'm kind of concerned about the Arkansas defense this year. Offensively, I think they're going to be pretty good. I don't think they're going to be really as a talented offense as they were last year. KJ Jefferson's back at quarterback. I think this is going to be a really tough game here for BYU. I kind of expect a close one here in the first half, but second half, I think the Razorbacks got too much talent on that offensive side of the football, and I think the defense will start to step up for the Razorbacks, and I think they'll slow down the BYU offense. I think Arkansas is the better team here as well, so I think BYU will lose their first game on the season here on the road at Arkansas, and I got their record now falling to 2-1. Then they'll open up Big 12 play on the road here at Kansas on September 23rd. If you look at this Kansas team, they're going to have a lot of production coming back. They have talent on both sides of the football, especially at quarterback with Jalen Daniels, who can run the football. And just last week, you're going up against Arkansas, another running quarterback in KJ Jefferson. And again, this weekend, you're going up against another quarterback in Jalen Daniels. He can run the football. He can really do some great things on the field for the Jayhawks. And I still expect a close game here. I still expect a close game here going into the fourth quarter, but I think the Jayhawks are just the more talented team here, and I think Kansas gets the win here over BYU and gives them their second loss of the season. So I got BYU losing their first game in the Big 12 to the Jayhawks. Then they'll play Cincinnati at home the next week here on September 29th. I just did Cincinnati's prediction video a couple days ago. You can go back and watch that video, and also I did UCF's yesterday. Now we're doing BYU's today. Cincinnati is a team that loses a lot of production from last year. I think both of these teams are pretty similar. They had both veteran experience rosters from last season. But this year, I kind of expect a low-scoring type game here between Cincinnati and BYU. This will be a really good matchup. Looking forward to this one. But it's a 50-50 game. It comes down to home field advantage for me. And with that being said, I think BYU with home field advantage does get it done here. And I think they do get their first Big 12 win of the season, which comes to Cincinnati here at home. And I think they improve to 3-2. Then they'll play TCU on the road here on October 14th. They get a bye week before playing this game, which I think is a good spot for a bye week if you are a BYU fan. But TCU, it's a tough place to play. TCU, I know, loses a lot of production on that offensive side of the football. Defensively, they're going to be pretty strong on that side of the football. I think TCU is going to slow down the BYU offense in this game, I think defensively it's going to be a defensive battle, low-scoring type game. However, playing on the road is especially a tough one here for BYU in a tough environment, and I think the Horned Frogs are the better team here and the more experienced roster. And I think TCU gets it done. I think TCU gives BYU their third loss of the season. That is a tough place to play. Maybe the game is close in the first half, but it's a low-scoring type game. And I think TCU's defense is really strong in this one, so I think BYU will lose that one on the road at TCU. That puts their record now at 3-3. Next game at home against Texas Tech on October 21st. Texas Tech, I think, is going to be a top 25 team this year, but this is a home game for BYU. I kind of expect it to be a close game here. This could probably be a shootout between these two teams. Maybe both defenses will struggle. And Texas Tech, I mean, I do have them losing 5 games this year, and it's one of these right here against BYU. I just think home field advantage does favor the Cougars in this one. And they're also kind of desperate for a win at this point to get back into winning ways here in the Big 12 because they lost 2 games in the month of September, and now they've lost just last week to TCU. And I think BYU gets it done. I think they do defeat Texas Tech here and give them their second win in the Big 12 Conference, and that puts their record at 4-3. Then they'll play Texas on the road here on October 28th. I really don't expect a close game here between these two teams. And this could be pretty much the only time that we'll see BYU and Texas go at it here in the Big 12. Texas is moving on to the SEC next year, so this will be the only time. But Texas has a lot of talent. Texas has a lot of talent on the offensive side of football, especially at the running back and obviously wide receiver position. And definitely quarterback Quinn Ewers can get it done. Playing on the road, I don't really see BYU going on the road and defeating the Longhorns. I just think that's going to be impossible. And I think Texas wins it here in a blowout. And I think this is the only game I see on the schedule where BYU gets blown out by a Big 12 team, and that would be Texas on the road. So they get to the month of November now with a record of 4-4. Then they'll play West Virginia here on the road on November 4th. Another tough road game here for BYU. West Virginia is a team I don't, like I said, to be expecting all bad this year. I think this is going to be a talented team. Defensively, I think they'll be pretty strong. Offensively is where I'm concerned about for the Mountaineers. This game, I think it's going to be a low-scoring type game. I think it's kind of similar to the TCU game where it is close in the first half. Maybe in the second half it will be close, but I think West Virginia, I think playing on the road especially is going to be a tough environment for this BYU team. So I think BYU will lose a close one to West Virginia here on the road, and that would be their 5th loss of the season. So I got them losing back-to-back road games here with Texas and West Virginia. That puts their record at 4-5. So they're kind of needing to win now in order to get to a bowl game, but the schedule doesn't get really much easier for that. Iowa State here on November 11th. This is going to be a pretty tough game here for BYU. Iowa State, I kind of expect them to be a really good team this year. I think I kind of expect this to be like a dark horse contender, but I don't think they're quite on that level of Texas and Oklahoma just yet. I think it still is a long way to go for Iowa State to be on the top of the Big 12, even though Texas and Oklahoma are heading to the SEC next year. So maybe Iowa State can sneak up there next year, but this year, I think they're going to be a pretty good team. I think I'm not really saying that. I think they're going to be a really good team. This won't be an easy game for BYU. It's a tough one to call, though, between the Cyclones here and the Cougars, and I think BYU gets it done. I think with home field advantage, they do get their 5th win of the season and also get their 3rd win in the Big 12. So I got BYU improving to 5-5, one win away from getting to a bowl game. Then it's Oklahoma at home on November 18th. This is a home game for BYU. I mean, it could be a really close game here between the Sooners and the Cougars. However, I think it's kind of similar to the Texas game. It won't be a blowout, but I think Oklahoma just has way too much talent on their roster. And with that being said, I think Oklahoma will get it done here. And I think playing at home, BYU will lose to Oklahoma. I think it will be a close game, but I think BYU won't get it done here. And I don't think it will be enough to go up against that Oklahoma offense either. So BYU is sitting there at 5-6 now. One more win away to get to a bowl game, but they'll play on the road here at Oklahoma State on November 25th. I know Oklahoma State lost a lot of production from last year, but it wasn't just the production, it was the transfer portal. In yesterday's video, I said I was kind of concerned about the defenses or the offensive side of the football. Defensively is not where I'm concerned about for the Cowboys. I am kind of concerned for BYU heading into this game. I think offensively, Oklahoma State's going to slow down that BYU defense or that offense. And I think this will be a low-scoring type game, though. 50-50 matchup here between the Cowboys and the Cougars. At the end of the day, though, home field advantage does belong to the Cowboys. And I'm going to say that Oklahoma State knocks off BYU here in the last game of the regular season. So I got BYU missing out on a bowl game for their first year in the Big 12 and finishing 5-7 in 2023. I have them winning 3 games in the Big 12 this year to Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and Iowa State, but let's be honest, it's not just about the overall record, it's about the schedule for BYU. I mean, take a look at it. Arkansas on the road, TCU on the road, Texas on the road, West Virginia on the road, and Oklahoma State on the road. Those are very tough places to play. You get at least Oklahoma at home. That could be a very winnable game. If they go 6-6, that's a big improvement. But if they go 7-5, that's a big improvement. But if they did go 4-8 or 5-7, that would just be a disappointment. But 4-8 would be the disappointment. But I think 5-7 is the prediction for me for BYU this year for their first year in the Big 12. Let me guys know what you think about BYU. What do you think their record is for 2023? How do you think they'll do in their first year in the Big 12? And stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.